My future mother-in-law stood up at my promotion dinner and played a recording of me saying I only wanted to marry her son after I became his boss. Everyone heard my voice. My fiancé looked ashamed, and then his mother said, "Now you all see what kind of woman she really is." My future mother-in-law ruined my promotion dinner with a fake recording of my voice. Not a rumor, not a passive-aggressive toast, a recording. I was standing in the private room of an Italian restaurant in Nashville, holding a glass of wine, while my coworkers, my parents, my fiancé's family, and a few close friends clapped because I had just been promoted to Regional Operations Director. It was the biggest professional moment of my life. Then my fiancé's mother, Linda, stood up. She tapped her spoon against her glass and said, "I think before everyone celebrates Emily, there's something my son deserves to hear." The room went quiet in that uncomfortable way people get when they sense drama but still hope it's a joke. My fiancé, Caleb, was sitting beside me. He didn't look confused. That was the first thing I noticed. He looked nervous. Linda picked up her phone and connected it to the small speaker my brother had used earlier for music. I laughed awkwardly and said, "Linda, what are you doing?" She smiled at me, not warmly, like she had waited a long time for this. Then she pressed play. My voice came out of the speaker, clear, calm, unmistakably me. "Once I get this promotion, Caleb will have to accept that I'm the successful one. His family can complain all they want. I'm not marrying him for love anymore. I'm marrying him because he's easy to control." The room froze. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I was going to pass out. I said, "That's not me." But the recording kept playing. His mother is pathetic. She knows I'm going to take her place. Caleb listens to me now. Linda gasped dramatically and pressed a hand to her chest. Caleb's sister Brittany whispered, "Oh my God." My dad stood up halfway from his chair. My mum said, "Emily?" That hurt more than anything. Not because she accused me, because she sounded scared. The recording ended with my voice saying, "Men like Caleb are useful because they don't realize when they're being managed." Linda turned the speaker off. Then she looked around the room and said, "I warned him. I warned my son this woman would humiliate him the second she started making more money." I couldn't breathe. I looked at Caleb. "Say something." He stared at the table. "Caleb." He finally looked at me and said, "Did you say that?" The room spun. I whispered, "Are you serious?" He said, "It sounds like you." I felt something inside me crack, because this wasn't the first time Linda had made comments about my job. For months, she had been saying things like, "A woman can be ambitious, but she shouldn't make her husband feel small." Or, "Caleb needs a peaceful home, not a second boss." Or my personal favorite, "Some women get promoted and forget they still have to be wives." At first, I tried to laugh it off. I told myself she was old-fashioned. I told myself she loved her son too much. I told myself she would relax after the wedding. But she didn't relax. She escalated. When I got shortlisted for the promotion, Linda started calling Caleb every night. Suddenly, he was asking questions he had never asked before. "Will you still want kids soon? Are you going to travel more? Do you think your salary changes how people see us?" One night, after I got home from a 12-hour workday, he said, "My mom thinks you're becoming a different person." I remember staring at him in the kitchen. "I'm becoming tired, Caleb. That's the only thing I'm becoming." He apologized then. But the next week, he asked if I would consider turning down the role if it created tension. That should have been my warning. Instead, I said, "I'm not turning down a promotion because your mother is insecure." He didn't speak to me for the rest of the night. Now, in that restaurant, his mother had played a fake recording, and he was looking at me like maybe she had saved him. My boss Dana was sitting 2 tables away. She had been the one who recommended me for the role. She looked stunned, not angry, not convinced, just stunned. That was almost worse because I knew what she was thinking. If even 10% of that recording was real, I was a liability. I stepped toward Linda. That recording is fake. She tilted her head. Of course that's what you'd say. I said, where did you get it? She looked at Caleb. My heart dropped again. Caleb rubbed his jaw and said, Mom said someone sent it to her. Someone? I asked. Who? Linda said, a person who cares about my son. My brother Jake stood up fully now. Then name them. Linda snapped. This is family business. Jake said, you played it in front of her boss. My dad moved toward me, but I couldn't look at him. I couldn't look at anyone. I grabbed my purse and walked out. Caleb followed me into the parking lot. He said, Emily, stop. I turned around. Did you know she was going to do that? He hesitated. 1 second, maybe 2, but it was enough. I said, oh my God. He said, I knew she had something. I didn't know she'd play it tonight. Something? She said she had proof you were saying things about me. And you believed her? His face twisted. I didn't want to. That answer was worse than yes, because it meant he had already been halfway there. I said, you have heard me talk for 5 years. You know how I speak. You know how much I love you. You know I would never say that. He looked miserable, but he still said, it sounded exactly like you. I laughed, but it came out broken. So your mother plays one recording and 5 years disappear? He said, you've changed since the promotion process started. There it was. Not the recording, not the words, the promotion. I whispered, you mean I got successful? He looked away. I drove home alone. Caleb didn't come back that night. He stayed at his mother's house. Of course he did. The next morning, I woke up to 63 unread messages. Some were supportive. Most were confused. Brittany had posted a vague Facebook status at 1:17 a.m. Sometimes God exposes a woman before she destroys a man. People were already commenting heart emojis. One of Caleb's cousins wrote, we all saw the signs. What signs? That I worked hard? That I paid half the mortgage? That I didn't ask Caleb's mother for permission before accepting a promotion? Then Dana called. I answered with my stomach in knots. She said, Emily, I'm not calling as HR. I'm calling as me. That scared me more. I need to ask you directly. Is there any chance that recording is real? No. Any chance it was edited from something else you said? No. She exhaled. Okay. Do you believe me? There was a pause. I believe you enough to say we need to handle this carefully. Carefully meant legally. Carefully meant my promotion could be delayed. Carefully meant Linda had not only humiliated me, she had put my career at risk. That afternoon, Caleb came home. He looked exhausted, like he was the victim. He sat on the couch and said, my mom is upset. I stared at him. Your mom? She feels attacked. She played fake audio of me at my promotion dinner. He rubbed his temples. Can we stop calling it fake until we know? I actually felt my body go cold. Get out. He looked up. What? Get out of my house. Our house. My name is on the mortgage. Yours is not. That was true. Caleb had moved in 2 years earlier after his lease ended. He paid utilities and groceries, but the house was mine. I bought it before we got engaged. Linda hated that too. She once said, it's hard for a man to feel like the head of a household when he's living in a woman's house. I should have told her to leave then. Caleb stood. So now you're throwing money in my face? No, I said. I'm throwing betrayal in yours. He left with a duffel bag. But before he walked out, he said something that changed everything. You know, if you had just agreed to sign the prenup Mom suggested, none of this would feel so suspicious. I stared at him. What prenup? He froze. His face gave him away before his mouth did. The one we talked about. No, we talked about a normal prenup. Your mom wanted me to sign something saying I would waive claim to any future family business assets. He said nothing. I continued. Caleb, Your family doesn't have a business. He swallowed. My grandfather's property. My heart started pounding. What property? He looked away. That was the moment I realized the fake recording wasn't only about my promotion. There was money involved, and Linda had been hiding it. After he left, I called my brother Jake. He came over with takeout, his laptop, and the expression he used when he was about to ruin somebody's day. I told him everything. The recording, Caleb's hesitation, the prenup, the mysterious property. Jake listened quietly. Then he said, "First question, where would Linda get enough of your voice to fake that?" I said, "She has videos from family events. Enough clean audio?" I thought about it. Then my stomach dropped. 3 months earlier, Linda had asked me to record a speech for Caleb's grandmother's birthday because she wanted to make a family video montage. She asked me to redo it 4 times. Can you say Caleb's name more clearly? Can you say his family again? Can you say I'm marrying him because for the transition? At the time, I thought she was being controlling. Now I realized she had been collecting pieces. Jake's face went dark when I told him. That's not old-fashioned. That's premeditated. The next day, I hired a digital forensics analyst named Marcus. It cost more than I wanted to spend, but my reputation was worth more than my savings. I sent him the recording Linda had played, which Jake had captured from someone's Instagram story before Brittany deleted it. Marcus called me 2 days later. He said, "This is manipulated audio." I sat down on the kitchen floor. "Are you sure?" "Yes. There are tonal inconsistencies, background noise changes, and unnatural spacing. It's stitched together from multiple sources." I covered my mouth. He continued, "But there's something else." Of course there was. The audio includes fragments that sound like they were generated or enhanced using voice cloning software. Not perfect, but good enough to fool people in a noisy room. I whispered, "Can you prove that?" "I can write a report, and if we can get the source files or the device used to create it, even better." Source files. Linda's phone. Caleb's laptop. I already knew they wouldn't hand those over willingly. Then I got a text from Brittany. For once, it wasn't a Bible quote or a passive-aggressive attack. It said, "I need to talk. Don't tell Caleb." I almost ignored it, but something told me not to. We met at a coffee shop across town. Brittany looked nervous. No makeup, hair in a messy bun, completely different from the smug woman who had posted about God exposing me. She sat down and said, "I think my mom went too far." I laughed once. "You think?" She winced. "I believed her at first." "Congratulations." "I'm trying to help you." I leaned back. "Then help." Brittany looked around, then lowered her voice. "Mom has been obsessed with you not getting that promotion." "Why?" "Because Caleb cried to her after you told him the salary." That hit me harder than I expected. I remembered that night. I had come home excited, holding the offer letter. Caleb smiled, hugged me, and said he was proud. Then he got quiet when he saw the number. I would be making almost double his salary. I thought he was processing. Apparently, he was bleeding insecurity into his mother's phone. Brittany said, "Mom kept saying people would laugh at him." "People?" "Well, she said a man can't marry a woman who becomes his superior." I said, "I'm not his superior. We don't even work in the same field." She didn't care. Then Brittany slid her phone across the table. It showed a screenshot of a family group chat. Linda, Emily needs to be humbled before the wedding. Caleb, Mom, don't start. Linda, you want to be a husband or a house pet? Brittany, Mom, stop. Linda, if she takes that job, she will own him. Then another message. Linda, I found a way to make everyone understand. My hand started shaking. Send this to me. Brittany hesitated. If Mom finds out... I looked at her. She tried to destroy my career. Brittany nodded and sent it. Then she said, There's more. I waited. Grandpa's property is worth a lot. Like, more than anyone thought. Developers want it. I frowned. What does that have to do with me? Grandpa changed his trust before he died. Caleb gets his share only if he's married by 32. I stared at her. Caleb turns 32 in October. She nodded. And Mom thinks if he marries you without the prenup, you'll have access to money she believes belongs to her family. I almost laughed. That's insane. I didn't even know the money existed. She knows. That's why she wanted you to look like a gold digger before the prenup conversation came back up. There it was, the second twist. Linda didn't just hate that I made more money. She was scared I would have legal standing after marriage. So she created a fake recording that made me sound controlling, cruel, and money-hungry. Not just to break us up. To protect money. Family money. The kind of money people pretend doesn't change them until it absolutely does. I asked Brittany, did Caleb know? Her eyes filled with tears. I don't know how much he knew. That meant yes. Maybe not every detail, but enough. 2 days later, Caleb called me. I let it go to voicemail. His voice sounded soft. Em, I miss you. Mom says we can still fix this if you apologize for how things looked and agree to counseling. I stared at the phone. Apologize for how things looked. Not for what I did. For how their lie made me appear. Then he added, and maybe we should revisit the prenup so everyone feels safe. There it was. He didn't want the truth. He wanted compliance. I sent the voicemail to my lawyer. Yes, by then I had a lawyer. Her name was Marissa Grant, and she had the calmest voice I had ever heard. She listened to everything and said, do not argue with them. Do not post. Do not threaten. We build a timeline. So we did. The birthday speech request, the promotion announcement, the family group chat, the dinner recording, Brittany's testimony, Marcus's forensic report, Caleb's voicemail mentioning the prenup, Linda's texts. And then, the third twist arrived from my workplace. Dana called me into the office. I was terrified. But when I walked into the conference room, she was there with HR and the company attorney. Dana said, Emily, we reviewed the situation. We also reviewed security footage from the restaurant. I blinked. The restaurant? Our company paid for part of the event. Legal requested footage after your attorney contacted us. The attorney slid a printed still image across the table. It showed Linda standing near the hallway outside the private room before the dinner. Beside her was Caleb, and Caleb was holding the speaker. My chest tightened. Dana said, there's audio from the hallway camera. She played the clip. It was muffled, but clear enough. Linda said, once this plays, she'll either break or behave. Caleb said, just don't make it too ugly. Linda replied, ugly is the point. I stopped breathing. Caleb knew. Maybe he didn't press play, but he carried the speaker. He stood there while his mother prepared to humiliate me, and his only concern was that she might make it too ugly. I sat there in that conference room, hands folded, feeling the last bit of love I had for him die quietly. Dana looked furious. Not corporate furious, real furious. She said, your promotion stands. And for what it's worth, I'm sorry any of us hesitated. I nodded, but I didn't feel relieved, because a promotion can be restored on paper. A reputation takes longer. The confrontation happened at Linda's house, not because I wanted drama, because Caleb asked to talk as a family, and for once, I agreed. But I didn't go alone. I brought Marissa, I brought Jake, and I brought copies. Linda opened the door wearing a cream cardigan and the expression of a woman who expected me to beg. Then she saw my lawyer. Her smile disappeared. Caleb stood behind her. He looked pale. Brittany was there too, sitting at the kitchen table, staring into a mug of coffee like she wanted to be anywhere else. Linda said, this is unnecessary. Marissa said, great, then it should be quick. We sat at the dining table. The same table where Linda had once told me homemade meals mattered more than corporate ladder climbing. I placed the forensic report in front of her. This says the recording was manipulated. Linda didn't touch it. I placed the group chat screenshots beside it. This shows you saying I needed to be humbled. Her jaw tightened. Then I placed the restaurant transcript on top. This is you saying, once this plays, she'll either break or behave. Caleb closed his eyes. Linda looked at him furious, not ashamed, furious that he had been caught too. I looked at Caleb. You carried the speaker. He whispered, I didn't know she was going to play that version. That version? He flinched. Linda snapped, Caleb, stop talking. But he was cracking. Good. I said, how many versions were there? He didn't answer. Marissa said calmly, Mr. Whitaker, now would be an excellent time to avoid making this worse. Caleb sat down. There was one that was just about the prenup. My heart pounded. What did it say? He stared at the table. That you planned to take half the trust money after we married. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I didn't even know there was trust money. Linda pointed at me. Because we were protecting Caleb. Jake slammed his hand on the table. You humiliated my sister in front of her boss. Linda shouted back, your sister was going to ruin my son's life. I stood up. No, Linda, I was going to marry him. That shut her up for half a second. Then I took off my engagement ring. Caleb looked up fast. Emily. I placed it on the table. You let your mother turn my success into a threat. You let her fake my voice. You let her attack me in front of my parents, my boss, and my coworkers. And then you asked me to apologize for how it looked? His eyes filled with tears. I was scared. Of what? He whispered. Of being less than you. That sentence landed harder than any insult, because for the first time, he told the truth. I said, you were never less than me because I got promoted. You became less than the man I thought you were when you tried to shrink me to feel bigger. Linda scoffed. Oh, please. I turned to her. And you? She lifted her chin. You don't scare me. I'm not trying to scare you. I slid one final packet across the table. It was the demand letter. Defamation. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Tortious interference with employment. Preservation of electronic evidence. Linda's face went gray as she read. You wouldn't sue family. I said, you made sure I wasn't family. Brittany started crying quietly. Caleb put his head in his hands. Linda still tried one last time. She said, Emily, think carefully. If you do this, everyone will know. I looked at her. Everyone already heard the lie. Now they can hear the truth. I didn't post a dramatic video. I didn't scream online. My lawyer sent formal letters to the relatives who had shared Brittany's post, Caleb's cousins who had commented accusations, and 2 people who had repeated the fake recording story at my workplace. Most of them deleted everything within a day. Brittany posted the correction, not vague, direct. The recording played at Emily's promotion dinner was manipulated. I shared harmful assumptions without knowing the truth. I'm sorry. It wasn't perfect, but it was public. Dana sent a company-wide clarification that there had been no misconduct by me and that my promotion was fully confirmed. She didn't mention Linda or Caleb by name. She didn't have to. People knew. Caleb moved out completely the next week. He sent long emails, first apologizing, then explaining, then blaming Linda, then blaming insecurity, then finally saying, you have to understand what it feels like to be a man watching everyone praise the woman you're supposed to lead. I read that sentence 3 times. Then I forwarded it to Marissa and blocked him. Linda's life got quieter, not ruined. People like her rarely get ruined all at once, but the family stopped treating her like the moral center of every room. Caleb's aunt told my mom she had always wondered about Linda. His cousin removed the God exposes people comment and unfriended her. Brittany moved out 2 months later. And the trust? Caleb still got his share eventually, but not through a wedding to me. I heard from Brittany that Linda never forgave him for losing the good house and the high-earning wife. That was the funniest part. After everything, she was still counting benefits she claimed I was trying to steal. As for me, I kept the promotion. I kept the house. I returned the dress. I canceled the venue. And one Friday evening, after all the paperwork and calls and quiet breakdowns, I sat alone in my kitchen eating takeout from the same Italian restaurant where Linda had tried to bury me. For a second, I thought I would cry. Then my phone buzzed. It was Dana. Just wanted to say again, you earned your seat. Don't let them make you smaller. I stared at that message for a long time. Then I saved it. Not because I needed permission, because I needed a reminder. Be honest. Would you have exposed them too? Because sometimes people say family issues should stay private. But Linda didn't humiliate me privately. Caleb didn't betray me privately. They used my voice because they thought it would be the easiest way to make everyone doubt me. But all they really proved was that my success was never the problem. Their fear of it was. They tried to make my voice sound like a confession, but the only truth it exposed was how terrified they were of a woman they couldn't control.